Thank you so much for joining today's session on all things UC Berkeley. My name is Chloe, and I'm super excited to have our guests here today and to be moderating today's panel. I'm currently taking a gap year and an incoming freshman at Brown University studying data science. For those of you that are new to Millie, Millie is a company dedicated to building a global community for international students. So we host panels and webinars every weekend. If you're interested in joining any events, feel free to check out our Instagram at Millie_group for any updates, and also check out our website. So for today's panel, we will have some pre-prepared questions for 45 minutes, and then feel free to ask panelists questions along the way, and then we'll do a quick Q&A session in the final 15 minutes. So let's get started. Today, we're joined with three amazing panelists who are current UC Berkeley students. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And they will tell you more about themselves. So could each of the panelists introduce yourselves, tell us your name, the city you're currently in and from, what are you studying, and one fun fact about yourself, starting with Rebecca.
Hi, so my name's Rebecca, and I'm a second-year mechanical engineering major with an intended electrical engineering minor. I'm currently in Berkeley because our classes already started, but I'm originally from Milan, Italy, and I went to the American School of Milan. And then, was it fun fact?
Yeah.
This early in the I don't have three organs. I'm gonna go with that.
That does it. My name is Ibrahim Al-Ghazali. I'm from Alexandria, Egypt. I'm also in Berkeley right now. I am studying economics with a minor in data science, and my fun fact is that I'm a triple citizen.
Hi, my name is Rania. I'm from Tanzania. I'm currently in Berkeley. I'm intended major in business administration and a minor in data science. And a fun fact is that I really like to ski and surf. So yeah.
Amazing. Okay, thank you guys. Very diverse backgrounds, so that's super helpful for our students here. Okay, so diving right in, why did you guys decide to apply to UC Berkeley, and why did you end up attending UC Berkeley?
So for me, it was interesting because I decided to do a summer camp in 2019, and it just happened to be hosted on the UC Berkeley campus. So that's one of the reasons I applied, and also I was going by rankings, and it was very high for mechanical engineering. And then when COVID happened and everything, Berkeley's actually the only campus I ended up visiting because I couldn't go back in 2020 to do all the campuses I was going to apply to. And so at the end, when I got into Berkeley, it was the best ranking one for engineering that I got admitted into. And I also thought, this might be a sign because it's also the only campus I visited and I really liked it. So yeah, that's mainly the reasons, ranking and the fact that I'd seen it before.
See, I didn't see Berkeley up until the week before my freshman year started. That was my first time seeing campus, so I don't have that previous experience that Rebecca had. But I applied to UC Berkeley because I knew I wanted to apply to some schools in California, and I was born in London and used to live there intermittently. So my parents really wanted to go to the UK because I'm British. It would have been cheaper, it would have been easier, it would have been closer to home. But I needed to come to a good school. So I was applying to a lot of schools across the country, and then UC Berkeley stood out on the West Coast, just for its sheer academic opportunity. The amount of Nobel laureates literally in the econ department is ridiculous. So that was what initially stood out to me, but I'll be honest, I didn't have much faith in myself in Berkeley specifically. There were other schools with similar acceptance rates and stuff that I applied to, but for some reason I thought that Berkeley probably wasn't going to be something that worked out. And then somehow it did, and I ended up deciding to come here, partly because of that, academic opportunity, being able to study under it. Also, the proximity to Silicon Valley is something that I really valued professionally, and I also very much valued the work hard, play hard culture that I had heard of on campus.
And I chose Berkeley and decided to apply here because I wanted to do business, and I know Berkeley has like one of the best rankings for business school. Um, I also studied in the UK for high school, so I was kind of in between, like, should I stay in the UK? I was between like LSC and Berkeley, and I've always wanted to live in the West Coast. So I really wanted to do that. And also, I ended up driving by Berkeley when I was visiting Stanford. So I kind of saw campus. And yeah, I really liked it. And I have some family members who studied at Berkeley as well for law degrees. And they really recommended that it would be a great place to like continue my higher education. And so yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. So sort of there are quite a few similar reasons, but also like everyone has their own reasons for picking Berkeley. So that's really helpful for our students to hear. You guys are obviously doing some different majors. So I was wondering how you guys decided what you wanted to study and major in at Berkeley. And what has been your favorite part of your degree so far, since you guys are all 1 year in?
So I will say I knew I wanted to study some form of engineering. I've always been more prone to like enjoying math and science, and I thought engineering would be a good spot for that because also just the hands-on component of Mechie seemed interesting to me. And that's actually something that I really enjoyed at Berkeley. So last year I managed to take E26, which is a required class if you're an mechanical engineering major, which is like the 3D modeling class. And unfortunately, my light makes it so you can't see it, but we designed like a wind turbine, and we got to print it out and test it, and it's right here. You just can't see it. And then I got to take E29, which is like the continuation of that, which is more machining. And so the item for that is also right there. And we built like a tower, like the UC Berkeley tower, but out of like laser cut glass. And we got to like learn to machine on a lathe. And so it was just the hands-on aspects of my major that I finally got to try out in college. So that's probably my favorite part so far.
I'll be honest, I'm not 100% set on what I'm studying. I think I've changed my mind like 10 times so far. My roommate likes to mock me for it, is that like every other week it seems like I have a new major. But I think that's something very valuable and says a lot about UC Berkeley. I'm the type of person who was kind of the opposite of Rebecca. No, like I was very anti-science, anti-math growing up. And so seeing myself considering doing a data science minor now, or actually like doing it, is kind of insane. I jumped around from economics and global studies. I might apply to the business school still. To one time, I thought I was just going to be a poli major. And I think that's something very valuable on campus for you to be able to do that and have an advising structure that allows you to do that, and a class enrollment structure that also enables you to do that, because then you get to explore different things. Like if I was at probably any other school, I probably would not end up doing data science. I feel like it's just Berkeley does have a very STEM culture, and people tend to get pushed towards that, where like CS and data science are some of our biggest degrees, and culture on campus is very much oriented towards that. Is that a lot of people take what they're studying and then incorporate CS or data science into it. So I kind of got caught up in that, but I'm extremely grateful that I did.
I actually originally wanted to do engineering. I did the IB, so I did physics, and I also took economics. So I was kind of like in between, like if engineering doesn't work out, then I'll do like something econ related. And I actually ended up doing a internship that was like consulting for an engineering company. So it was kind of both business and engineering combined. And I realized that I really did prefer the business side, although like engineering was something that I really wanted to do. Also, I like growing up in like a developing country, I saw like my like family, friends, like businesses like kind of thrive. And also like I think I started my first mini business when I was 4 years old, and then another one when I was 10. And they're just like I always thought it was like something that I really enjoyed. So, and I think it's like my passion now. So I think that's why I wanted to do business.
Okay, thank you guys. That was really helpful. I was an IB student too, so completely empathize. That program was crazy, but we got through it. And yeah, it's really good to hear both sides of the story, like Rebecca with you having your major set out from a very young age, but also Abraham with you like being able to explore a lot of different majors at UC Berkeley and the course structure sort of giving you the freedom to do that. So that's really reassuring to hear for students. I think he had a Wi-Fi problem, but we'll just continue. Okay, so with your current degree and just core classes that you've been taking, what has your experience with your classes been so far, and how have your professors been?
Yeah, so I've mentioned this already because I was talking about it earlier, and my favorite aspect of Berkeley, of my major so far. I will say I've only taken gen ed classes so far, mostly. So the math classes, the physics classes, and obviously they do split it up a little bit. Like there's the physics for engineers and the physics for like the bio majors. But it's still huge classes. So I haven't had much one-on-one with the professor, but that's entirely my fault because I don't go to office hours. But I do know that they are incredibly open. One of my friends last semester went to the office hours and got a spot in the professor's lab. So the professors are huge on helping you out, most of them at least. And will, if you go to their office hours to talk to them, they will talk to you. So it's definitely like I know professors are great. Yeah.
Should I go since his Wi-Fi is
Yeah, go ahead.
So far my classes have been great. Actually, like doing the IB helped me a lot because I didn't actually have to take a lot of the prereqs. So in terms of like English, like R1A, R1B, I didn't have to do that. Economics, no. Like there is a lot of classes that I didn't have to take, which is kind of sad, but it also gave me the opportunity to explore other classes too. And yeah, in terms of business classes, it's been good. The professors are amazing. I took an astronomy class last semester, and I think our professor, he was like a noble, like he was amazing. He would like spin in circles and throw candy at us to mimic like a black hole or something. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. I think I got the like it was a great class. I would say in terms of like Berkeley, what they have to offer, like different from other universities, would be they're amazing professors. They're really, really dedicated and hardworking. They'll help you. Office hours is great. So yeah, I think those have been my experiences with my classes.
I've had an amazing experience with my classes as well. They varied a lot in size. So like first semester I was taking like an upper division global studies class about like the Gulf states and their politics and their role in shaping the Middle East. And the professor used to work for the UN. He worked on the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. He was as Syria was being recaptured from ISIS, he was like behind the front line helping villages rebuild. That was super cool. And that was only like a 30-person class. Um, and so like I very easily built a strong relationship with my professor, which was an amazing opportunity. And then larger class, I took intro econ last semester. And professors are actually a married couple, Christina and David Romer. Christina Romer was Obama's head economic advisor or the chair of his economic advisory panel, which was insane. She just like, as she was explaining the 2008 recession, she would be like, oh, this is what we did in stimulus. And like, she basically pointed at the recovery point of the GDP graph for the US afterwards. And she was like that was kind of me. So that was super cool. She always used to drop anecdotes with Obama as well about her time with Obama, which was and you know, from like a purely academic standpoint, cloud aside, they are two of the biggest names in economic research, which is ridiculous. And yeah, just like that exposure to just simply brilliant minds like that, and then also the ability to like have to build connections with professors, even though it's such a big university, is amazing.
Wow. um, So you can say you're mutuals with Obama right now. That's pretty cool. It's awesome to hear how amazing your professors are. Even I'm excited. Like I'm going to college next fall, and just hearing about all this, it's great. Like, and the fact that you have interactions with them, I think, is super reassuring. Okay, amazing. So you've been here for a year. What has been your favorite part and least favorite part of UC Berkeley? Don't hold back. Full honesty here. Maybe like if there were professors, try to talk about something else, give the students a bit of variation.
Okay, this is a little difficult. I will say my favorite part, which can also be the least favorite part, is the people. There's definitely a ton of great people at UC Berkeley, so you'll make like great relationships, you'll meet a ton of people you study with, in your dorm, you'll meet people. So if you find your people, it's great, but there also are, like every university, the one uppy person that's gonna try and make you feel bad about how you're doing, and you're just gonna sit there like, okay, or like that one person in your dorm who thinks it's great to start banging on all the doors at 1 a.m. when you have a midterm in the morning. So it really goes both ways, so there's like the great people, but there's also people that may be like one uppy or a little bit more competitive, and that'll make it suck a little.
Okay, I was also gonna say people for the favorite part, but I'll switch it up a bit. The really the pre-professional opportunities. I did a consulting club last semester, um, called Venture Strategies. We basically just consult for startups, that we try and orient towards being headquartered in San Francisco, so we can actually go to their offices. Um, and honestly, the opportunities I've gotten for that have been insane. It's given me a better idea of what I want to do after college, how I can, mold my 5 years out of college, my first 5 years out of college, to like help me reach my goals. And then also just simply like the networking opportunities, being able to join an organization like that with a good reputation amongst like big consulting firms, big finance firms, et cetera, et cetera, really helps you. There's a lot of anxiety. Like high schoolers are usually super worried about getting to college, and then you think you're done, and then you get to college, and everyone around you, or at least at Berkeley, because there's a very big pre-professional culture, everyone's already looking for jobs. And everyone's applying to jobs, and everyone's studying, casing stuff I didn't know existed. I didn't understand how the process was. So being able to navigate that with a good group of people is highly valuable. Least favorite thing, housing. Housing is horrible. It's really bad. Like we have a housing crisis. Like it's not like an unknown fact. I'm sure it's one of like the first things that come up when talking about UC Berkeley, when researching UC Berkeley. Um, Freshman year, you're guaranteed a dorm. Some of the dorms aren't that nice, and it's kind of how lucky you are. There's some really nice ones reserved for people on certain scholarships or athletes, and then there's other dorms that are just really bad. I actually didn't live in proper like Berkeley housing dorm my first year. I used to live where I live now, which is like a residential college, which was until I decided I wanted an apartment, and trying to find an apartment in this housing market was insane. Everything's overpriced. I think I got rejected from like 6 different places because there were other people applying to the same place. So that was definitely, a pain point that as an international student definitely didn't help. But it doesn't compare to the list of good things for.
I would say that my favorite part of UC Berkeley, it's very similar to Rebecca's. It's just I found a really great group of friends, and I think that that was an amazing thing, and it really enhanced the experience of being a student here. A lot of my friends are actually all international as well, so I like the whole international community, keeping in touch with everyone who's from areas similar to yours. Um, but I would say like a problem with that, or like with UC Berkeley people is their, which can also be looked at as a good thing, is their competitiveness. It's great. It really like forces me to like do better and try my hardest, but like sometimes it's a bit too much. Like for example, I'm in class and I ask my friend for notes and she gives me her notes, but they're fake notes that she took for me to do badly on the midterm. It happened to me last year. It happened to my friend last year. It's just that no one wants you to succeed because everyone's kind of looking at themselves first. So it's kind of sad in a way that like it's one person's test scores. It's not going to change like the grading scale too much. But yeah, everyone's very competitive. They'll try to bring your scores down, like, or from what I've experienced, like they gave me fake notes. It's happened to my friends as well. So it's not the best thing. Another thing, like in terms of housing, yeah, it last year was pretty bad. I was put in unit 3, which is not the best housing, and then I rejected them, and then they put me in Martinez Commons. And actually, I got really lucky because I could have been displaced and just like I had to find an apartment. And especially for international students, it sucks. I came in alone and they told me not to, they told me I came in a day early and basically they didn't let me stay at the house. I was like, I didn't have a place to sleep the first night I got to UC Berkeley. So I had to like go to the closest hotel I could find and like just sleep there. And it's not very, it kind of sucks for international students because we don't really have anyone that can help us out. So I would say in terms of support, also maybe the school kind of wants you to be a little bit more independent. So I thought coming here, I'd get a little bit more support, but in terms of housing or anything, and I didn't really get that. And it's not the best for an international student. So yeah.
Okay.
Can I just comment on the
Yeah.
competitiveness thing? Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to
Yeah,
just...
go for it. Yes, you can interject anytime.
Just like the reason for this competitiveness tends to be the fact that there's grade deflation. So basically the way it works is the professor will be given an average. So he'll say like your class has to be average. And so oftentimes like at the end of the year, they'll line everyone's scores up and assign the grade boundaries in order to get the average, which tends to be like A- or B. And so if you're in a huge class and everyone's doing really well, you can slip up by 2 points and risk getting docked down to the next grade. Not 2, but like by little. And so it tends to be that competition where it's like, if I score higher than my friends, when they then have to go split the barrier, like the boundaries, I will be in a higher boundary because there's more people that did worse than me. And that's where that competition comes from, as well as the fact especially for like the Haas Business School, like if you go to Berkeley and you want to study business, you then have to apply, like once you're in, you then apply for the business school. And only, 30% get in, right? So then there's that competition of like, if I do better than you in the prereq classes or in my essays and like actually make it into a consulting team before I get into Haas, I can get in and you can't. And so that's where that comes from. And there are a few classes, like the really big ones, like computer science, they will just say like, these are the bins, we will not move them, because they know that way people actually won't try to damage each other. Because if you know beforehand, like, okay, if I get this score, that's the grade, and they will not move it because they've had the class enough times to know where the average will land, and they will not touch it. People tend to not be cutthroat with each other.
Administration has like officially tried making professors move towards that a bit more, which is great. It still exists in some classes. I've heard of cases where some classes it went the opposite direction, but I'd say a general campus trend is that like kind of like starting to, be addressed, which I find good.
Okay, thank you guys for your honesty. That's really helpful. And I think grade deflation is also a lot of problems at other colleges as well. So I think just nationwide, a lot of colleges need to be addressing this. So thank you guys. So as international students, hearing about all this like competitiveness and housing issues, I was wondering what your transition into UC Berkeley was like, moving out of your country, moving into a completely new country, going to college for the first time. What was that process like for you?
So I'm from Europe, right? And last year there was a travel ban on European citizens with an F1 visa exception. So I had to go alone. My parents couldn't come with me, and that meant getting sheets and towels and dorm supplies. I didn't have a driver's license, and I was barely 18. I turned 18 15 days before before like I flew out. So like in Italy, I couldn't have gotten a license either. And so I remember I showed up with my 2 suitcases, and I was in a hotel for 3 nights. And I remember we shipped some stuff to the hotel. I went to Bed Bath and Beyond, and like we had pre-booked things, and I Ubered to Bed Bath and Beyond and Ubered back. And then I've had a friend that I did my summer camp with 2 years prior that was like, well, my parents are here with a car, I can drive you, and he drove me to my dorm. And so it was a really hard transition, mostly because like I got on that plane and my parents didn't sleep for like 3 days because they knew I was in a random hotel by myself in a new city by myself. My card wasn't working sometimes because it was an Italian prepaid card, so sometimes it would just become iffy and not work, and I was running out of cash. And so they were really stressed. I was really stressed. And so it's really hard because it was really harsh transition. We were planning to go there beforehand and do a little trip through California, and then my parents were gonna help me move in, stay a few days. And the fact that didn't happen, it just made it really rough. Like to move in completely alone, no card, barely a phone number. Good luck. That was really rough. And I do agree that with Rania that there wasn't really much assistance. They just said, this is your move-in day. Be there. That was it. So
See, my experience wasn't nearly as bad as that. Like, I found it to still be very challenging, but like, comparatively, I can't really say much right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, my move-in process itself wasn't that bad. But like the first semester, or definitely the first year, was just challenging. Berkeley is a very unique and eccentric city outside the walls of campus. Like students don't live on campus, even living on campus, it's around the perimeter of campus. So you're walking around the city of Berkeley every day, and it's a unique city. Coming from Egypt, there's a lot of people, with very eccentric outfits on, very eccentric characters just walking around, um, and there's a lot of with the housing crisis, there's a lot of houseless people as well. I was sitting at Chipotle the other day, and then all of a sudden, as I was like on my phone, someone happened back. And I just heard "You're blessed," and I turn around and I see this homeless woman walking away. So that was an interesting experience. So there's just like stuff like that, really, that like kind of like made me afraid of the city for the first semester. And then in a really like I really really hated the city in my first semester. Like I cannot stress this enough. But somehow I ended up growing to love it. Like right now, like I see one of those characters and I laugh. Like it's turned into kind of like a this is so cool that I'm here thing, which I didn't expect to happen. This isn't like an oh I'm being story-eyed for Berkeley. It just naturally somehow happened, where I grew to love this city a lot. But definitely like being away from home for the first semester and being from different places, everyone else. Berkeley is a public school, so most kids here are from California. Um, so like I remember my first week, like everyone was from like the same three schools somehow. Like everyone I interacted with my first week was from like the same three South Bay Area schools. And so that kind of like makes you feel like you're on the outside, even though you're not, even if the people are welcoming, not being able to have that like shared background uh, makes it tougher on you mentally as an international student until that barrier is broken and you actually make friends and you have shared experiences you've built together here. But yeah, that definitely takes like a semester or so. But I feel like that's the case for any international student anywhere. It's not a Berkeley specific thing. But yeah.
I would say my experience moving in. It was very hectic, similar to Rebecca's. I came alone. I got my visa like a day before I came here. because there was problems and like my parents couldn't get one. And then I came with also 2 suitcases, and I was just walking around campus very confused. I found where I was supposed to be. I went there. They're like, oh no, your move-in day is actually tomorrow. So then I got a hotel, and it was just very stressful. And getting a phone number, getting a credit card, debit card, it was just so difficult. It's a good thing that in Berkeley, everything's kind of close by, but it's it was just hard. And in terms of like finding people, I would say something that Berkeley's good at is like on Instagram, anywhere you can find like a good community of people from like areas, places close to you. Like, so I'm from Tanzania. I've yet to find anyone else who's from Tanzania at Berkeley, but like I look online, like International Student Association Instagram, and I find people from Kenya and like all these other like countries near me, and I just reach out to them, and then I find a whole other branch of communities of people kind of like me. So that was great. I feel like that was my favorite part of moving in, like finding a big community of people who are similar to me in the first like 2 weeks, and then meeting their friends. So that was great. But moving in itself, yeah, Berkeley doesn't really support international students. And if you're having trouble, I would say like if you're a student coming in, like make sure to plan everything before, order everything before. And luckily when I moved in, my roommate was amazing. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. People don't get along with their roommates, and they end up moving like the next semester. So I got really lucky with like the circumstance of me moving in, but when I was actually coming to Berkeley, it was so stressful. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. So it sounds like you guys have a lot of reflections from your first semester or first few months of college. So I was just wondering, what advice would you guys give your freshman selves if you could go back and tell them, a few pieces of advice that would have been helpful in your first semester?
So I'm gonna try and go a little bit broader and give some advice, because I do think that I handled it the best way we possibly could have given the context. So I had everything booked in advance, like pickup for pickup. So don't wait until you get there to go buy like your sheets and your towels, because odds are Berkeley's gonna be moving in, or whatever university you're going to is gonna be moving in that day or like in that time frame. So all the families will be buying last minute, and oftentimes there might be more than one university at the same time in the same city. Like if you go to Boston, good luck. Like there's a lot of universities, so they're all going to the Bed Bath and Beyond and buying sheets and towels. So order beforehand for pickup. I had my phone card, my SIM card shipped to my hotel and delivered to my hotel. So when I checked in, they just handed me this envelope. You can do that. You can ask them beforehand, say, can I have a package delivered there, and I'll pick it up when I arrive. And so I managed to set up my phone night of. So I would say like the best advice I can give is to make sure everything is set up for when you arrive. So hotel, your stuff. Don't fly in your sheets. That's pointless. Don't waste your suitcase space and weight. And also, like Rania said, like try to find like someone, even if they're not from your same country, they're like close enough or like close to you. So there are a couple of Italians at Berkeley. I just never bonded with them very much, but I did bond with someone from Switzerland. Close, So I would say it's definitely helpful. And maybe try to find a restaurant that actually cooks your food the right way. Like not a Italian American restaurant. I found an Italian restaurant that makes the pizza. I hear the pizza guy cussing in Naples dialect all the time, so we go every once in a while.
That's when the cussing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say. I haven't had good Middle Eastern food in this country yet. No, never mind. New York has good Middle Eastern food. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, like that's how far I have to go to have good food. Unless I cook it myself. Okay. Advice I'd give myself, I think I waited until my second semester to join clubs. Halfway through my fall semester, I realized that was an issue. Because Berkeley's so big, because there's 30,000 undergrads, you need to build communities around you. like you need to find smaller communities to put yourself in, because campus is so big you can easily get lost. And I started realizing that like when I wanted to like branch out in terms of like making friends and such, not being in clubs made that difficult, not because of like an exclusive culture or whatever, but more of simply because like people already have their groups, and sometimes those groups were like predetermined by clubs, and I had my friends, but in terms of like meeting new people and kind of doing what I wanted to do, I realized that I should have joined clubs. So I would definitely tell myself at the start of the semester to explore. There's a club literally for everything, and just find things I really liked, and then uh, go all in on those, just so I could have that first semester is the toughest. So being able to have smaller communities around, more people around you, a better support system from that first semester would definitely help.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I also struggled. I didn't even know like what consulting was when I came into Berkeley. And I think like starting early, especially like the first semester freshman, like that would be great. I wish I applied, and because and if you don't get in, the likelihood of you getting in the next semester is even better. So joining clubs is great to find like communities. I would also say like advice for my freshman self, like I was very academic. Actually, I wasn't that academic focused, but I wish I was more like live in the moment, like go on a spontaneous drive to SF, go to Tahoe, all of these. I wish I explored like the NorCal a little bit more. And I wish I found someone who actually could drive. I can't drive here yet. And so yeah, I would say like exploring the city, going to as many restaurants. There's great places to eat here, even though they're not completely authentic, but they're good enough. And I would say, yeah, explore the city, get to know your professors like early on. Don't be intimidated. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions, go to office hours and like form those connections, because they'll probably be able to help you get research positions or like letters. And I think, yeah, getting to know your professors, GSIs is really important as well. And then also just having a little bit more fun and like going out and all these different things. So yeah.
Amazing advice. Thank you guys. And thanks for the advice on food as well. I was worried about not being able to find good Chinese food in Providence. So it's good to know I need to do some scouting. But speaking of clubs and the importance of like joining them in your first semester, as you mentioned, Abram, what clubs are you guys involved on campus right now? And what has your experience with them been so far? Like the joining process, the recruitment process, and just being in the club itself.
Okay, so I didn't do consulting. So it was a little bit simpler just because it wasn't as competitive. I know that there are some engineering clubs, specifically the ones related to rocketry and cars. So that's Formula One, or like they have like a solar powered car, a chemical engineering car. Those can get a little competitive. Not too much, but they will say like we want some prior experience, or maybe they'll say like, okay, you want to join, design this part on SolidWorks, make it, and then we'll talk, which happened to my friends. But I don't think it's hugely competitive, definitely nowhere as close as the consulting clubs. So first, I joined all my clubs first semester and I've stuck it out. I have not joined new ones. I've just been working my way up and through these clubs. So I joined the Society of Women Engineers, which is great. It provides a ton of opportunities, a ton of connections. And I was in a committee every semester, so you can be a general member and just have access to these things that they plan, or you can help plan them. And so I was in one that did like high school outreach for a semester, and then I did one called like career options in engineering, where we've had like a bunch of companies representing different things you can do with your engineering degree come in and talk about it. So we had a game design company. I think that was a panel with people from different companies, and they came in and talked all about like designing video games. So like the storyboard aspects, the computer science aspects, things like that. And now I'm in the biggest corporate committee, which plans like a huge dinner with a bunch of company reps, and that's actually on Thursday. And it's great because they do a ton of social events as well, and you get to bond with the other people in the Society of Women Engineers. And you can find a study group, you can ask for advice. I got my physics textbooks for free both semesters because they were just passing them down. And then I'm in Enable Tech, so that's an actual engineering club, like we engineer things, and we help design like specific things for people with disabilities. So we work one-on-one with them to make something that's personalized to them. And last semester, I was in one team one semester and then became the team lead for a new team for a new project second semester. And now I'm the external vice president and I do the one-on-one communication with the project partners that we work with. And I will say I loved it. I love all of these clubs, and that's probably why I'm sticking it out, because I haven't had a bad experience with them.
Okay, I think I'll speak to the culture around clubs. It's competitive. It's pretty bad. Like Rebecca touched on it already, but like for the consulting clubs, it's a grueling process, and I hate it. But I am in one of those clubs that perpetuates it. But it's something that people on the inside understand as well. But there's only so much. There's only so many clubs, and there's so many more people that want to join these clubs than there are clubs. And it's not easy to start a consulting club. Basically, okay, the word consulting club to all the high schoolers watching, you basically just like work for companies for free. That's essentially it. They outsource your problem. So I'm working for like college delivery service right now. They're thinking of product expansion and user acquisition, so we're helping them do that, just to give you more of an idea of what a consulting club does. Other teams are like doing like data analytics for like new market expansion, stuff like that. But yeah, joining one of these clubs is like joining my club, Venture Strategy Solutions, has been my favorite part of Cal so far, by far. The opportunities it's given me, the people I've met, and all of my best friends are in that club. But to get in, it's tough. There's like, I think like the top tier consulting clubs and venture acceptance rate is like 5%. Yeah, so it's like as hard to get into one of these clubs as it is to get into the school, which is interesting. But I've worked on the reform for the process from the inside, and it's not as easy. There's only so many seats, and there's so many more people. But yeah, you kind of like you have to coffee chat people. You show up to info sessions. You show up to case workshops. You send in your application, and then you interview as a group, at least for venture. But there's a first interview always, and then there's a second interview that's basically conducted the same way all the big consulting firms conductors, through like something called a case, where you walk through a business case and talk about it or solve it. And then after that, some clubs have something, a social night, where like after you've proven your like aptitude, like you get to vibe check the club, and the club vibe checks you kind of to see if you fit in socially. That's basically what it is. Because it's like 50% company, 50% club. But yeah, the process is tough. I'm not a fan of the culture, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, there's only so much that can be done institutionally, and I think this is the case at a lot of other universities as well. This isn't something that's unique to Berkeley, although I wouldn't be surprised if it was like accentuated here because of the pre-professional culture.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of like consulting club like processes. And honestly, like it was just trauma for me. I did it actually, I'm kind of late to the game. I started like applying for consulting clubs this semester because I'm already part of a couple clubs. And it's funny because I'm a business major, but I'm doing a lot of lots of creative clubs. So I'm part of NOD, and I'm one of the gold members. So basically what we do is we work with Illustrator and create design 3D models of brands. And so we work with startups around the Bay Area, and we just create their brands, logos, market it. And yeah, it's a lot of creativity, and art related business. And also like I do things like completely opposite to that. I'm also part of the like space tech and rocketry clubs, the STAR, and I love that. I like doing different kinds of club and in Berkeley Women in Business. So it's a lot of like there's a lot of variety. You can join as many as you want in some cases. And yeah, I say like trying to get a good variety of clubs would be great. Not just like pure consulting, because I feel like that would be so stressful. I'm like, it's just a lot of work and a lot of time commitment in that sense. So joining like art related clubs would also be great, or like other things you've always been interested in, because you're already taking the classes for like what you're pursuing. But if you're interested in other things, you can always join a club to explore like something else. So yeah.
All right, thank you guys. That was really helpful. Hearing your experiences about consulting makes it kind of sound like Greek life, like you're joining a sorority, the whole social scene, like that's super interesting. Really quick question out of curiosity. What's the Greek scene like at UC Berkeley? Like, does it exist? Do you get FOMO? Oh, okay, Rebecca, go ahead.
So it exists.
Oh no.
No. It exists. I live next to it, right? Because I'm on the same street that all the frats end up being on. It exists, and from before I came to Berkeley, I looked it up. The amount, the fraction of the student population that is in Greek life is not that big.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, this is fine. Like it won't be a huge deal. But somehow, like when you get here, it's somehow a huge deal. Not always as much as if you went to like Alabama or a school that has like a very prominent Greek life, and that's like a huge aspect of their culture. But definitely, I know several people or rushed sororities and frats and then joined them and know someone who's in one or want to be in one. And if you say you're not, they'll say, why not? Why aren't you in a sorority? A lot of people do it for the housing because the houses are pretty big. Obviously, I'm not talking Alabama University huge, but they are quite big and the rent tends to be cheaper than maybe an apartment or equal to, but with food. So it tends to be one of the cheaper options, and you know it's there. Like the house, they won't tell you like, no, you can't live here because you're a brother or a sister. So a lot of people do it for the housing. A lot of people do it for the connections. It's also true you can find the connections elsewhere. That's what I'm doing. So I don't know. Here's the thing: if you don't want to be involved in the Greek life, it's also easy to just avoid it. But it's a bigger deal than you'd expect it to be given the fraction of the population that is in Greek life, if that makes sense.
It's a loud minority. It's definitely, Rebecca summed it up pretty well. But I would say that, it's a pretty active Greek life scene. There's many houses. I mean, compared to a lot of schools that my friends are at, there's how there is a Greek life scene. Whereas like I know some schools, especially when you get to this level of colleges, this tends to kind of drop off, and you only really see the Greek life being this active in like public schools. So like here, UCLA, those are the only like T20 schools really that I imagine have Greek life. It's pretty active. I know many people in it, and most of them love it. Many of them don't. It's something that's like not for everyone, but party life in Berkeley does kind of revolve around it. Like your options are really either that or a house party, with your friends. But like the only people that like actively like plan to throw parties are frats. And on game days, Berkeley's a very spirited school. So on the game days during football season, everyone's walking around campus in the city of Berkeley like wearing blue or gold. Everyone's walking to the frats for like a danger. Like someone will be DJing and you can just hear music as you're walking down the thing. So I think even for people who hate Greek life, who've had a bad experience or whatever, or have any justified reason to hate Greek life, walking down the frat row or Piedmont, and just like hearing all the music and stuff, like it's cool. It adds to the college environment, even if it's not for you. It's something that's there and it helps add to that dynamic in a new way. Whereas like sometimes you think of Berkeley as this like school where like I spent much less semester going from my desk, my class to my bed because it was a tough academic semester. But having that, that part of campus where everything's super laid back, it's all just like playing die with your brothers on the field, on the lawn, while you're drinking, like stuff like that, like people who aren't solely worried about the academics. I feel like that's very valuable at a place as stressful as Berkeley.
Yeah, I always the only thing I'd say about frats is that the walk up there, especially if you live in Southside, is like the worst part of getting there. So like you have to walk uphill for like I live like downtown, so you have to walk uphill for like 20 minutes or more sometimes, depending where you're going. And it's the worst thing. I don't go anymore, but last year, um, it was it was interesting. I think the culture is great. Everyone's very spirited, but in terms of like, I've had a couple friends, even when I was there, like get roofied or like been like it's not the safest thing, but at the same time, like that makes sense because there's like a frat ratio 3 to 1. So for every one guy, there's 3 girls sort of thing. And it's kind of weird, but they also don't let guys in as much as girls. So like if you go in with like your friends and they see a guy, they're like, no, you can't come in here. So it's interesting. I think that's everywhere else, but I remember my first semester here, like I would watch like college American movies and I'd be like, oh my God, that's a frat, like one of those crazy parties at college. And then like I go to one of them here and they're actually like very similar. They're like kind of just like what you see in the movies. I personally did not rush, although I think it's a great way to like network and meet people. And honestly, like at first I wasn't planning on doing so, but after like seeing all the connections people make like in sororities and etc., I think it's like a great way to like meet people like you and like and then furthermore even like after you graduate just to build those connections and like a network of people. So I think that would help you like further get jobs in the future. So I would say that's a good thing about that as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Coming from one of our audience members, a question. What advice would you give high school students wanting to apply to UC Berkeley?
I'm trying, hold on.
Take your time.
Start the application early. I recently read that it actually opens today, October 1st, rather than November 1st. That could be fake, but I think I read that somewhere because usually the UC Berkeley application is only open for submission for a month. But apparently this year there's a bigger time frame. Don't put it off. Because I think they had a technical issue the year I applied, and so they ended up having to extend it by a day because people were trying to submit it near the end and it just shut down. Something like that. So I would definitely say like start early. It's like 4 essays. Get them done, make sure they're nice. Get someone to proofread them. But for the entire application process, try not to make it like a last minute. I scribbled this down because oftentimes it might be noticeable. And also if you get someone to proofread it, like a counselor, it just improves the overall quality. That's probably the best advice I would give. Oh, and also don't just talk about your academics. You're more than your grades. Show that.
Yeah, I think a big part of what they look for in your essays, for Berkeley specifically, when you apply your UC application, you're not applying it to Berkeley specifically. You're applying to all of the UC schools. There's in no point in the application anything that makes you like indicate anything specific for Berkeley. Except for when you say which intent, then doesn't mean much. So you're not gonna mention Berkeley by name or the Berkeley culture in the essay. Some supplements for some schools, you want to talk about school specific things. I remember like writing about like specific clubs I wanted to join, like in my thing, in my supplementaries if I were to join school. Like you can't do that for Berkeley. Reorient you. Towards Berkeley. They love social justice. Berkeley is for improvement. I know this doesn't go for every single person who applies, but but I know for me, after I got in, I immediately understood why I got in. Is that this place is, it's a hotbed of activism. Everyone here like cares about making the world a better place somehow, and I'm big on like tackling economic inequality and stuff. And my essays were kind of centered around my experience doing that in Egypt. So I kind of understood like, oh, okay, this is what they saw. Like this is the fit they saw. They saw this like um, this passion for social impact in me, and that's what fit me within Berkeley campus. So that's definitely one thing. If you've ever done that, then one, that means I think you're a good fit for Berkeley, and two, I think they will also think that, the readers. Um, but yeah, I'd say above that though, the biggest piece of advice is to research the school well. I think it's hard to get a good understanding of Berkeley without being here. So I reach out to us, reach out to any one of us after this. We can have a more extended conversation. But just you make sure you want to come to Berkeley, like before you come here, because for every person like me who loves it, there are two people who don't, and that's okay. And that happens. That happens at any university. But just to spare yourself the trouble of going to a university where you're not happy, make sure you understand the school well.
Yeah. I would say so applying to Berkeley or UC schools is very different from, for example, UCAS. So for UCAS, it's very academic, what you like, the grades you've gotten, what classes you took, your coursework. Whereas for Berkeley, it's a little bit more like quirky, I would say. You can talk about things you like to do, your extracurriculars are a very big thing. Just something that differentiates you from the rest. Of course, they can see all of your academics and all of your achievements in the application itself. So kind of showing your personality a little bit and being a little bit even informal is something that you can do in your applications. In addition, like once you get in, I would say in terms of classes, like I would say for the first 2 years, figure out all the prereqs you need to do, all of the LNS breadths, American culture requirements, and just like strategically like place them per semester, because I remember coming in and I did a bunch of the hard classes first, thinking, oh, I have to get my prereqs out of the way. I did them all at first, and then I think I could have like spread them out within the 4 years and then gotten like a better grade overall. So that's something you should do. So strategically like align or place your classes and your breadths. I would say like even like put your breadths throughout and like take like a, and also like for GPA boosters, like if you're taking a breadth, try to take one that has like a high class average, so it's more likely that you'll get a better grade. And so those ones typically get full pretty quick. So apply early or like as soon as your deadline starts. So like apply or like I think like there's a way to put things in your shopping cart on Cal Central. So you can do that, and then when it's time to apply, just quickly press it and you'll enroll in the classes immediately. So that's some advice. In addition, I would say, yeah, when it comes to application, be a little bit more personal and be strategic when applying for classes. So yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. That's super helpful. We have 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to do a really quick fire question. Answer that with 1 or 2 sentences. So one final question, what is one thing everyone should know before coming to Berkeley?
Can someone else go first? I need to think about it.
Okay, multiplier. You are 1 in 30,000. You can find support services. You can reach out and find services, but you're the one that has to do that. You have to rely on yourself. That's the one thing. That's the number one thing, and that helps you grow, but it's also a challenge. So that's the number one thing.
I can go next. I say one thing you should know would be like the environment itself. Obviously, like the school is amazing, but doing research on the area would also be very important, especially because it's not the safest, but at the same time, it's really full of culture and like great food places. It's very diverse. So researching the campus, but also researching the area around it, because you never know, it might not be well suited for you.
I would say this is probably just for most colleges. You're an adult now, so similar to what Ibra said, like you're kind of on your own. Like there are sources, you gotta do it yourself. There is food, you gotta make it and buy it yourself. There are office hours, you're the one that has to go to them. So like you have to learn to take care of yourself pretty quickly. Do your own laundry, clean your own space, set a schedule, which is going to be very different than high school, and you will get tired easier than you would in high school. The 8 a.m.s don't do it, so you cannot get up at 6 anymore. It's not, you can go to bed at the same time, you cannot get up at 6 anymore. I don't know what it is about, it's the air in college.
It's called being-
Okay. All right, thank you guys so much. Wow, we finished on the dot. Thank you all for your advice. Super helpful, especially for me, like going into college next year. This is all really great advice, so thank you guys. Okay, so that marks the end of our panel today. Thank you again to all our panelists. All their LinkedIn's and contacts info are in the chat, I believe, so feel free to reach out to them. Ask them any more questions you might have. If you need any further college help, check out Millie's Instagram and website as well, and feel free to book consultations with whatever you need help with. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and